Hi guys, I'm Will here at Cedardale Communications, and today we're going to talk about letting go of limiting thoughts. One of the things we love to do here in coaching to motivate others, as well as to be able to achieve your own personal goals and real growth in your life, is to let go of self-limiting beliefs. Now, these beliefs are quite normal. It's something that is ingrained in our mind, in the way we do things, in the way we perceive ourselves in life. And it's a product of our environment and as well many other facts, such as, for example, family, your education growing up, sports you may have played while you were growing up and later on in life as well, our culture as a whole, and even sometimes the friends we have. Now, the good news about all of this is it's a belief. It's not necessarily a fact. So we're able to counteract this. And through our coaching, we tend to do this in some steps that I'll share with you later on. Now, some of the examples that you may have caught yourself saying from time to time is, I'm too old for so and so. I'm not smart enough to be able to do this. I'm not educated enough, therefore I can't do this. So it's all cause and effect. I'm afraid of trying and failing. You have to make money to be able to have money. I've already tried everything. There's nothing left to do. It's selfish of me to want more. I don't feel that I really deserve it. I don't have the willpower, or even all the good ones are taken. Now, the conditioning of our environment plays a key role in all of this. And one of the takeaways, I'm quite a movie buff myself. And every once in a while, I'll talk a little bit about movies and culture. But one of the snippets I really liked was from the movie Departed. I believe it's near the beginning of the movie, where the character Frank Costello is explaining the nature of his business in Boston. And he says, I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me. Now, it's something that I've always espoused. I would be lying to you if I said that I grew up with this perspective, but in my mid-20s, I began to pursue more things I wanted. When I was in my mid-20s, even my early 20s, my grandfather had had a series of strokes. The reason why it's so hard to pinpoint exactly what age I was is because he was actually in a nursing home for about 7 years. And in those 7 years, I noticed a decay in his quality of life, in his communication skills, in the way that he was no longer himself. And in one of the last moments of his lucidity, he told me, Will, are you happy with your life? Are you doing what you want to do? Now, in your mid-20s, you might not have a lot of retrospect to do. There's not much hindsight, but at the same time, my grandfather was a man who really did live life to the fullest. He did what he wanted to do, and he basically broke a lot of limiting self-beliefs that others would have. He left England with nothing to go to the New World with his wife and 2 young kids, and made a new life, knew he would probably never see his family ever again, and it's one of the biggest sacrifices for him to be able to live his purpose. And he really lived an alpha life. Anyway, aside from all of that, now, when we look at family members themselves, like in the specific case that I was mentioning, my grandfather. Now, when we're children, our real guide in life, what we look towards to know how to understand things and how to move forward, it's our parents. Our parents can be huge players in our lives. Now, if you've got one parent, you've got your 2 parents, whatever your situation is, there's always some of this that trickles down. Even sometimes there may be a father figure and there may be a mother figure. You never know. But all of this does play a particular role in the way we grow up and the way we start building our beliefs. Now, The family dynamic is what really creates some of the beliefs through a sense of protection. When you look at it, always look at it as cause and effect. There's this, therefore that. So, for example, in terms of protection with your family, you'll get hurt if you don't wear a helmet. You'll get hurt, something will happen if you do this, or if you don't do this. There's also a sense of responsibility. Like, if you're not sure, don't do it. Like, basically saying, don't screw it up. And don't be afraid to screw up things in life. I'm not saying go right ahead and do it. But if that's the only thing that's holding you back, you're never going to learn, you're never going to try, and you're never going to risk anything. And that's the way we truly develop as people. The other sense of what's ingrained in our dynamic within the family is the sense of authority. Now, this is good, this is bad. Like, don't sit on a hot oven because your bum's going to be in a different shape. Or even, whatever, crispy bottom, whatever you like. The other factor that plays a large role in the way that we start developing these limiting beliefs too is through our schooling or education, as well as sports or different activities you may have done while you're in school, even drama or chess, whatever it is that you were into. What happens in this environment is that it's fabricated for a group. It creates situations where you're testing limits. Not only yourself, but everyone else around you is testing limits. You're sorting out who is the alpha in this whole equation, because there's always going to be one at the top. There's always going to be someone better than you. Now, this can apply also in sports. It can apply to the studies. Who's the best student? Who's the one who gets the best grades? And who's the one at the bottom of the pile? Now, all of that stuff I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a negative. I think it's really good in a sense for us to start discovering what we're really good at, what we want to focus on. Yet, a lot of times when we're young, we're just developing our thoughts. We're very sensitive, we're very raw. So we may take that as, okay, I'm not good in math, therefore I'm an idiot. And that's totally wrong. You will not need advanced math for most things in life. And those who will be doing their careers in math will definitely be using a lot of these things to create stuff that we don't even need to use math. I like to think about when I was in school, we had to do all of our math up here. We had to learn how to multiply, the multiplication tables, how to divide, all this other stuff, how the numbers actually worked together. And now we've got this magnificent thing called a calculator, which basically now what sets us apart is how we use the fingers when it comes to adding in numbers. Now, you'll get a chance to discover your talents, and that's what needs to be nurtured. That's what you need to focus on, and it really is okay to not be good at certain things in life. You don't want someone who doesn't know what they're doing when they're fixing the brakes of your car, for example. And there's no shame in not knowing how to fix the brakes of your car. You can take it into a shop and get it done. The other aspect that really does shape our mind, it's the more beautiful, more glorified sense. It's media, society, and culture. Now, within this aspect, we don't realize it, but our choices of entertainment, whether they be dramas, whether they be comedies, romantic comedies, whatever you can think of. Now, this type of entertainment does really condition the way we think, and it's more on the subconscious basis. Your mind is relaxed, it's not guarded, therefore you're letting the flow of the information come in. And when we're looking at the entertainment world, if it comes to movies, if it comes to video games, there's always a regulator behind it too, saying, okay, if you're a certain age, you can handle this. If you're a kid, there's this kind of movie. If you're a teenager, and if you're an adult, you get everything. So that means that you're a developed mind and you're receiving all the information you need. A lot of adults also, at our age, we can be susceptible to the world and to information that comes in that resonates with us in a certain way. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right information. It takes us maybe a few more steps to really do a little bit more work and decide, is this really something I need to accept and incorporate in my life? Or is this something that I should just shut off and not let any access to in the rest of my life? When you think of movies, television, Netflix, anything that you like to do just to kind of let that information soak in, it's really, a lot of it is guided by Hollywood and offshoots of Hollywood that are just there to promote entertainment, to promote a good time, or to promote just, being at the edge of your seat, see what happens next. Now, they push the norms. They also set certain stereotypes and roles in society, which also limit what you can do as a man, what you can do as a woman, or even in terms of other relationships, other dynamics. It will say you have to be this kind of way. Or when everything is failing, look at this person, they jumped in and they saved the day. Now, sometimes that's not a very practical solution, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. And when it comes to office-related matters as well. You have to approach things much more from an individual case and a problem-solving perspective rather than Rambo going in and saving the day. Another thing that we can look at in terms of society in general, society, our government, our culture, all the laws and regulations determine what we can do and what we can't do. A lot of it, of course, is good. A lot of it is based on more of the Judeo-Christian thought, which is a sense of community, a sense of responsibility, and a sense of humanity. Granted, there are a number of rules out there that are outdated. A lot of people who try to push the limits as well by saying this is against my civil rights, or people who are just accused of just basically following the wave, following the norm, which others will call the public good. Now, a lot of it comes down to us to see what is our role, what is the best thing we can do for ourselves, also benefiting those around us, the image that we will have by having taken such an action or not having taken any action. A lot of times we can say that if you don't take any action, it's still an action. So if, say for example, someone's being hurt, you don't do anything about it, can you live with yourself just standing there and watching and not having called the cops, not having done anything? One of the examples I recall is many years ago, I was in, I guess I would say maybe 10 years ago, I was in Hawaii, in Honolulu, and I went to one of these food trucks to get a nice kind of Hawaiian meal. Oddly enough, that was the best place to get authentic Hawaiian food, was a food truck. And as I was enjoying my meal, I could see across the street a couple fighting. Now, myself, I was without my cell phone. I was watching from a distance because they were creating such an environment of toxicity and noise. And eventually, the guy just grabs the woman by the neck and slams her down on the ground. And my first thing was reacting in shock. I was like, this is not something I see on a daily basis. I hope none of you do, and I hope if you're in a situation like that, you're taking steps to get away from that. Now, what happens in that situation is the number of people that sit there and observe it, the number of people who decide to walk away, this is none of my business, and those who actually will grab a phone and call the cops, do something about it. And so a lot of this kind of behavior is something that we observe, and we're players in life, whether we want it or not. Things are happening constantly. And we have to approach it from the best angle we can. Can we do something about it? Are we equipped to do something about it? And if not, is there something we can do to help? I think that's one of the things that we realize through our limiting self-beliefs, that we are actually capable of quite a bit more than we actually give ourselves credit for. Now, I guess the most important thing is, granted this is a synopsis, we could definitely have a very long conversation as to all the intimate details of all this kind of situation. However, the most important thing you need to realize, as I said from the beginning, now, it's a belief, it's not a fact. It's in your power to be able to change the conversation. You should be able to look at things and from a much more aware perspective. Some people may catch you on it. You may catch yourself saying things like that. And the most important thing is, like, try to kind of flip that switch on and try to be more aware of what you say. Try to be more analytical. You can't really be analytical of absolutely everything, but, do it as an exercise, do it for fun. Monitor and study the things that you say frequently, and once you catch yourself in a more negative discourse or a more limiting fact that you're presenting to yourself, write it down and accept it. This is what I said, and from that you can look at the origins of, why do I have this belief? Why would I say such a thing? Is this something that I heard through my parents that they say to themselves all the time? Or maybe it was my father, my mother, my uncle that used to say this all the time, and it's ingrained in there. And from there, you can actually change the conversation. You can change that from a positive to a negative. You can say, well, when you look at a situation as a whole, like say for example that you're unable to do something like, what would I say? Let's say deck work. You need to take a piece of wood out and change it around. Now, I'm not the most handsy person in the world in terms of these kinds of projects. In terms of other things, hands go wild, as you can see. Now, there are certain steps you can follow. We're not all born with two left hands. But think about what is the worst possible outcome that could happen of your involvement and what you might do. And from then, see what you can do to overcome it. What would you do differently? What would you do to be able to accomplish a certain thing if it goes the other way around? So, as you can see, at the end of the day, the choice is yours of how you decide to live your life. How you decide to embrace possibility or decide to settle because, you know what, it's a lot of work, I don't know, I'm too old to try new things. Start thinking about, it's one life to live. How's it going to hurt if I give it a try? Maybe I've been pushing away things so long that I'm keeping my best life for some other day that might never come. One of the best examples is I had worked with a friend who had been an interpreter for a number of years. And in her 40s, she discovered her passion, getting into law school, doing it part-time while she was working and paying bills, taking care of kids. And once she was able to get her law degree, she started her own practice. And she couldn't be happier. She works with her own community, has developed her own niche. And I think that's something that we're all capable of doing, and we need to give ourselves more credit for it, and we need to be able to realize that the sky is the limit no matter where you are in life. Steps may be a little bit different on how to achieve it, and it may take a lot of work, but a lot of work gets its own reward. Anyway, thank you for tuning in once more, and if you do have any questions, you'd like to set up an appointment or a free consultation with me, feel free to do so at info@cedardalecommunications.com. I'm happy to have a chat with you and see what we can do to help you out, whether it's for limiting self-thoughts or any other thing that we do in our coaching business. Thanks very much for joining the conversation, and have a great day.